Hi guys! I feel very honored to be here with you guys today because this is my first review of the year. My first video where I ever talk about my favorite books of the year, which is very exciting. Maybe you're not that excited, but I am. But it was also kind of hard to pick my favorite books because it's kind of like picking my favorite children, you know? Also, something you probably don't know is that I'm currently freezing my ass off because it's freezing cold in Latvia right now. So I usually sit on the ground to film these, and today I'm sitting on a blanket and I'm still cold. So, yay! We love that. This video will be separated into two parts. There will be the honorable mentions, which are the 5 out of 5 stars. You know, these are great books. They're amazing books. I would recommend them to people. However, there are better books. And those books are like 6 out of 4 stars. There are 10 out of 5 stars. They're amazing. They're incredible. They're show-stopping, never done before, sublime taste, excellent pieces of work. Yeah, maybe that was a bit too much, but like, you understand what I mean. It's like, how I would explain it, if there would be a fire in my house, my instinct would be to save these books. And then later, I'd realize, oh no, I didn't save those books. Like the honorable mentions, I didn't save those. But it's like you can forget about them. I wouldn't forget my favorite books. That wouldn't happen. Like, I would be taking those with me. There's a fire, they're coming with me. The first book I'd like to talk about is The Fountain of Silence by Ruta Shepetis. I think I have talked about this book before in all the books I've read in the summer, and honestly, most of these books I've probably mentioned at least once in some of my other videos because I love them a lot, you know. I read The Fountains of Silence in the perfect setting. I was on my vacation in Spain, and this book is about Spain, so it was like, it was perfect, you know what I mean? Ruta Shepetis calls herself the seeker of lost stories because she writes a lot of YA and historical fiction books, and she very often picks certain parts of history that are not globally known or just like widespread information that everyone could know and are just not often talked about, kind of. And I really like that. This book was about Spain under the rule of the dictator Franco. I find all of Ruta Shepetis' books really good, quick reads because they're very easy to understand. And they're also quite memorable because of the empathy you feel for the characters. She's very good at writing a book with multiple characters and their POVs to portray a certain historical event. And she's done that in many of her previous books, and I really like that. It really adds the perspective to the book. Yeah, I know, it's kind of a break. However, these pages, they fly by. It's that easy to read. They just like, you didn't even notice. But yeah. Also, the people who made this cover, I'm questioning their choices, kind of questioning their choices, but whatever. Anyways, I might be possibly maybe a little bit, tiny, petite bit biased because this book had a character. There's no way. Do you hear the fucking drill? Do you hear it? You have to hear it, right? That was fucking, for what? I might be a bit biased because one of the characters in this book is a photographer and he shoots on film in like the 1950s or 60s, and oh my god. Oh my god, guys. I shoot on film and my literal dream would be to be a photographer. That made me so much more interested to read, kind of, in a way, because I was like, oh my god, he's taking pictures. In general, I really like to read books about artists because it's so interesting to see someone be like passionate about something, you know? Another book I'd like to quickly mention, also by the same author, is I Must Betray You, which was about a dictatorship in Romania. And I've read this in 2 days. It's a super quick read. It's a YA, so like, if you want to give this as a present to someone, I think that's a great idea if they like history. And I did not know anything about the history of Romania beforehand, so like, thank you. Her short, concise writing just mesmerizes me. I don't understand how you could possibly do that. The way she leaves things unsaid with the silences literally screaming at you. They're literally shouting at you from the book. Especially this book, like small things like these, it has a lot to do with silence because it's about this town in Ireland, which is very controlled by the church. The main character of this book is Bill Furlong, who finds out this big secret, and he has this sort of internal fight with himself. Should he just kind of ignore it and continue living his life, or do something about it, you know? This book also brings up the terrible treatment of women by the Catholic Church. And it's this very like dark piece of Irish history. Next book in the honorable mentions section is Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. I read this book around spring, and me liking this book is very shocking because it's nonfiction, and I don't generally read nonfiction. I don't generally enjoy it. So this was actually quite surprising. This book explores what we should know about people who we don't know through research, short stories, and interviews. I honestly can't give this book a fair explanation. However, I do think everyone should give this book a read because I really enjoyed it and I didn't expect to. Last book is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. In 2022, I had read every single book by Alice Oseman, or like 2021 or 2022, and there was only one book left. I've read all her separate parts and I've read all of her novels, and there was one book left, which was Radio Silence. I had read the back of Radio Silence multiple times and it just never seemed like something I would like. But then I talked to one of my family friends and she was like, yeah, this is a really good book. I really loved it. And I was like, okay, sure, I guess I'll give it a try. And I did. I absolutely loved it. I was in kind of like a reading slump at the time. So reading this book like got me out of it. I read it like fairly quickly. And I don't know, it was just such a vibe. It's all of Alice Oseman books feel like a warm hug. They are so comforting. They are my comfort books. I really love how Alice Oseman was one of those authors who enhances social media into her books so perfectly, and how the story is just full of pop culture references and jokes, and she knows how to write teenagers. She knows how to write teenagers, and I love that. All of her YA books actually feel relatable, although some of them might be kind of like not aged well because they're like, oh, Tumblr, you know, or like Facebook, and it's like, yeah, sure, maybe people don't really use that right now, but the feelings and the actions are kind of still the same. I really love the little universe she has created with her books, and maybe I should do a video where I talk about all of my Alice Oseman books, like my favorites and not so much favorites, I don't know. If you like books with queer characters, you need to read these. Her books are always very diverse. Now we are entering the 6 out of 5 stars that literally, I love these books so much. I love these books. The first book I read this year was On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, and what a book to start a year with. What a book. Ugh. I love this book so much. It's not funny. I forced my friends and my sister to read this book. I talk about it all the time. If I have the opportunity, I will tell all of my teachers about it. Maybe I shouldn't do that, knowing the contents of this book, but I don't care. I don't care. I love this book. Ocean Vuong has some magical powers over the English language. I don't fucking know what happened there. Did he sell his soul? I don't know, but he writes, the way he just plays around with words, just like mind-blowing, shocking. I could never do that. How does he, what? I just can't. Like, the language in this book. The title itself, like, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. Breath taken away. Just like, Also, we'll never stop talking about the fact how I got this book for €6. Isn't that amazing? This great book for a great price. I literally can't. I can't with this book. I love it. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood is a classic I think everyone should read. It's a dystopian novel set in this totalitarian world. It tells the story of Offred, who is a handmaiden, and she's completely stripped of rights. She has basically no say what's happening in her life and what's happening to her body. And she's forced to bear children for one of the commanders. And yes, people who have never heard of this book probably think that I'm crazy and that I'm insane, but people who know this book, like, they understand. They understand. Like, this book is amazing. Like, it's genuinely a great book. I know that in some schools they read this book and analyze it, and oh my god, I really hope maybe I do that in some of my higher grades, because this book is so great. I would love to talk about this book in school. I would love to analyze it more. And I can't explain this book. It's beyond my comprehension. Like, genuinely, the mind Margaret Atwood has. Wow. To just... And all of these events in this book, which seem crazy, all of them have happened in real life. And it's just, at some point in history, all of these things that I've mentioned have happened. And it's like, oh my god, this is the perfect dystopian novel. It's genuinely great. I don't know. This probably is the best dystopian novel I have read. And I've read quite a few. I think I read the most popular ones. And I find this to genuinely be the best one. Especially this year. For some reason, I don't know, I had the dystopian year, I guess. I don't know, I've read quite a lot of dystopian novels. Giovanni's Room, James Baldwin. I fell in love with this book even before I read it. I just read the back of the book. I was like, yep, this is it. This is amazing. This is it. James Baldwin just knew how to make a story so compelling. I don't know what he did, but there's something about his characters, there's something about his writing which just flows so well. And he understood human beings so well. Giovanni's Room is a story about an American man who falls in love with an Italian man. And listen, that already is perfect, right? And guess where it's taking place? In Paris. In the 1950s. Paris in the 1950s. Isn't this literally every, like, Pinterest girl's dream? Like, Paris in the 1950s. Is it not? I think it is. He should literally win an award for the most aesthetic setting in literature. Like, what was this? That was amazing. Babel by R.F. Kuang. This book, I have talked about it so many times before. I even did my English project on this book. That's how much I love it. It's about a group of students in 1830s in the British Empire studying in the Institute of Translation in Oxford at the Tower of Babel. And if you didn't understand yet, it's like very dark academia. So like if you are one of those bitches who love dark academia, that's literally, if you haven't read this book yet, I don't know what you're doing, because you have to. It's amazing. If you haven't heard of this book yet, then I don't know where you've been living, under a rock maybe. This is literally the only book I used to hear about a few months ago everywhere I went. And it's very fair because it's incredible. It's honestly amazing. It's perfection. And of course, once again, I might be biased because I love languages, which I think we all already know. So another thing, I did not know a thing before I started this book. Like, I knew that it was good, but I had no idea what the plot was about, genuinely. I knew it was something about the Tower of Babel. That was it. Then I started reading, it was like, wow, this is actually amazing. So, yeah. And guys, before we start the next book, I just remembered another book which I think should be in the honorable book section. This isn't my favorite book, but I still think we should talk about it. Spoiler alert, next book we'll be talking about is a fantasy book. So I remembered about another fantasy book which I read very early into the year, which was Bloodmarked, and that is the second part for Legendborn. And I don't read fantasy books. In my entire life, I've read probably 2 fantasy series. This one, the next one we'll be talking about, and like fucking, what is it? City of Bones or something. So basically, yeah, I'm not really a fantasy reader, as we can see. And I really, really like these books. So like, I honestly just wanted to say that these were great, especially the second part. I loved the second part. And the third part, I just Googled it, is gonna come out in the early 2025, so. So, so that's great. I can't wait. And now let's move on to the next book because I really love it. And let's do it. Let's do it. Crooked Kingdom. Or just, honestly, no, just like the Six of Crows series. So what can I say? Let's go back to my vacation in Spain. So on that vacation, I love going to bookstores. So I went to this one very cute bookstore and I didn't really find any books there except one copy of Six of Crows. And I was thinking, yeah, I've heard that it's like good, but I don't know how I feel about it. But but like I'm on vacation, so why would I not get myself a book, It's like whatever that mindset I have is. So I get this book, I start reading it, and slowly, I'm kind of like liking it more and more. And when I finish it, I'm like literally sprinting to the fucking bookstore to get Crooked Kingdom. And then I read Crooked Kingdom in like 3 days, although it's like 600 or like 500 pages, because might be a little bit obsessed. What can you do? This book is about a group of thieves, and the characters in this book are absolutely amazing. I love each one of the characters in this book. They're incredible. I found this review, which I'm going to read out to you from my computer on Goodreads, which I think is very explanatory of how I feel about this book. Side effects of reading Six of Crows are, but not limited to, shortness of breath, nausea, weak knees, dehydration, dizziness, headache, heartache, constant sweating, high blood pressure, cognitive heart failure. So yeah, that's how I feel about this book, and I absolutely love it. I gave it to my friend. She also absolutely loved it, so it was great. It was literally the best. That's the best fantasy book, I think. Next book is Red Closet. And yes, I still have the check from the day that I bought it. Wait, what? No. No, this is not the check. I thought this was the check for this book, but it's not. What? You know what this is a check for? This is my order in Hesburgers. 1 kebab burger, 1 soy tortilla, 1 chicken tortilla, and all that together was $14.50. That's awesome. Red Closet by Rustam Alexander. The cover is amazing. An incredible cover. Literally, look at that. And I have talked about this before and I'll say it again. I have this little tiny obsession with 2 things in books. I love these things in books. One thing is having queer characters. I just love that. Just diversity in general, I love that. But one thing I really love in books is dictatorships, totalitarian regimes, like societies that are like controlled and stuff like that, oppression. These things are terrible things. I love to read about them. I think you could have gathered that when I was talking about the rulership at these books, because both of them are about dictatorships. So if I'm reading like a historical book, I love to read about dictatorships. I just find it so fascinating how people always, through no matter how oppressed they are, they will always find a way to fight government trying to silence them. They'll always fight, they'll always rebel against that. And I just find that so fascinating and so incredibly interesting to read about. So that's it. Anyway, so this is a book about the hidden history of gay oppression in the USSR. Ah, how I love it. These are 2 of my favorite things in one book. Gay people and oppression? Do you hear that? Isn't that the best piece of writing? And I've never heard anyone talk about this book. Never. I've literally never seen it anywhere. I hadn't heard of this book before I entered the bookstore and saw it there. And I just felt like this book was perfect for me. And I've never seen it again. I've never seen it be sold anywhere ever again. So I'm wondering if this book was just meant for me, honestly. What is this book? What even is this book? So it's a series of stories about queer people living in the USSR, starting from like the 1920s to 1990s, so like through the decades, and how, you know, the government changed and how the relationship to queer people changed, and how like throughout the decades people constantly tried to like cure gay people. There were a lot of doctors, and that was very interesting to read about. And there was some crazy short stories in here, which I was just reading. I was like, what is this? This feels like a whole novel. Like, you know, there's like it's like 10 pages, but I'm like, wow, this is crazy. What is going on? What is this thriller mystery kind of movie? There's like, I'm not joking, because most of these things come from police cases, because, you know, gay people had to like hide. So the only way we can find any information about them is through these like police cases or like doctors and their like books they've written on how to cure gay people. And it's very crazy. I don't know. I love this book. And look, wait, look at it. If we take this amazing cover off, it's completely red. Isn't that beautiful? I think it's beautiful. And guys, the time has come for the last book. We've made it to the end. Wow. I just want to say I feel so glad you've been here with me through this whole thing. And I want to thank who cares? No one cares. Let's just move on. Young Mongo by Douglas Stewart is one of the most beautiful books I've read this year. It's about a young boy in 1990s Glasgow who is slowly falling in love with another boy, which is just so extremely cute and sweet. This book touches upon the segregation between the Protestants and Catholics in Scotland, and it also discusses masculinity, because Mongo lives in this very hyper-masculine world where this kind of toxic masculinity is very expected of him. And this book melts your heart because of how sweet it is, and it also makes it stop beating sometimes, because guys, please check the trigger warnings before reading this book. There was a part in the book where I like closed the book, took a moment to like stare at the wall, just like, haha, what the fuck did just happen? And then just kind of continued reading. But that's, you know, I really suggest you check the trigger warnings. But besides that, I love this book. It's so nice and so beautiful. And that's it. Those were the best books I read in 2023. And now we have a new year, and that's crazy. It's 2024 now, which is super weird. But yeah, I really hope you like this video, guys. Really hope you like these books, and I hope I see you some other time. Bye, guys.